Hi, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Game Developers Club for the week of April 6th, 2015. I'm Joe Grieve. I'm your president. And today we're going to be going over a little bit of integration of different terrains into our main scene in Unity. So, with that being said, I'm going to switch onto the scene here, and I'm going to have Arthur, our vice president, take over, and he's going to give us a quick little rundown on how to get other terrains and bring them into our current scene and kind of make them work together. Like I said, got about 3 hours of sleep last night, so I'm going to run and get a cup of coffee, and then I'll be back, and we will pick up where we left off. So I think if you just go to the Trello, you can probably find our, did you put your train up there yet, Abby, on Trello?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Should I just copy the scene and put it on there?
Well, you right-click on the train. Or you want to show her how to export that real quick?
So,
all right.
To
go to export that. I'll be right back.
Go to your assets, and you'll see your train here in the inspector.
In the source file, right?
Yeah, and then you just export package, and then you don't want to have this include dependencies, because that's going to add in all the other, all your speed tree, all the other junk that we already have. So just unselect that, and then export, choose your file location, and then upload that to Trello, and we'll pull it back on. And then, okay, so that is how you do that. It's simple enough. Quick pull up mine so we can import. So I should have just emailed to him. Sign out. That is a stupid error. Grab my email, download this, file. Oh shoot, did I just close his? I don't care. So with Unity, it's really as simple as dragging and dropping. Just pull this train right into this file, import.
Is there a way we can adjust the light so it's not shining on the screen? Do you know? Because it's kind of hard to see.
Turn on
the yeah.
That works.
Yeah, it's fine.
I wonder if I can get it just brighter.
Should be a way. Maybe.
That works.
That's better.
Okay. No one needs to see me anyways. Alright, so let me see if this is my train. Doesn't really look like it. No, it's probably one of his. Maybe mine. I don't know. So it looks like his other one. And that looks more like mine. Unity's hating me right now for just dragging and dropping a bunch of trains in, but it is that simple. Once you have, let me get rid of some of these. I don't want to select that. Okay. Come on. So it looks horrible right now, but once you have all your textures and everything in, it'll look much better. And we'll be able to position these around our main area, our main island, however we want. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe uncheck static.
Oh yeah. Where's that?
At the top.
Static, yes. Thank you. It still hates me.
Are they all static? Maybe I should do them all.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just needed time to finally
Yeah.
say I hate you. And then it's back to being normal.
It will never.
A little bit. Fine, go wherever you want. This is ridiculous.
Let's go a little
We're
by
just
little.
gonna do this. Does he not have number lock on? Okay. This is 2000, so 2000. There. Oh wow, I actually imported all the trees and stuff. So yeah, as long as you use the standard assets that Joe already has, it should. Like this train already has like 20 or 30,000 trees on it. And then all I have to do is like grab his water, duplicate it, and go ahead and move it over my train. Be like, yeah, now I have water as well. I don't think I grabbed the right thing, but. Oh god, this block. Forgot I even had that there. No, I'll just leave it. Joe can deal with it. Alright. Let's see. I have this set up. Does anyone have any questions about like importing trains or exporting? Oh, he's got like things attached to this water. That's what it is. It's funny.
That's weird.
I don't know what
Can you
he's
just
doing.
go into the script on the left side and just, take it off of the attachment. See, it's attached to the water, right?
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. It doesn't really matter to me. So, yeah, like, I don't think having all these trees are helping my situation, so I'm just going to quickly remove them by mass placing 0 trees.
Or you just hold on, shift.
Yeah, but mass placing 0 removes, oh, did I keep it? Yeah. So as long as you don't keep the existing, it will just remove all of the trees so that you don't have to deal with shift clicking over everything. And then, texturing this stuff is really simple, but there's little tricks that I like to use. If I can find, ooh, good dirt, that sounds good. And let's grab a few more. Maybe a cliff, grass, rock. Grass rock will do. Okay. And then when you do this, I like to like have it on like really low opacity, and I just kind of like work over areas. I don't like a small brush. I'm just gonna quickly do this and then fix my other areas. Just get sand, quickly turn this into an island. And then just turn this down about 4 and then go over the cliffside with it. And what you'll notice is like it won't totally get rid of the sand texture, so it'll kind of make a mix so that when you're coming through it won't just be a bunch of squares next to squares. They'll kind of overlap and turn into a a really nice looking terrain versus just I have squares everywhere. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do, and like the more detail that you can get with adding in smooth transitions to your terrain really changes the amount of detail that you get when you're terrain building. So you can really quickly create a nice looking terrain by using very little effort. That's what people like to do. I don't know what just happened. But let's just see what we have selected here. Try to make this I don't know, you guys get the idea. What else can I show you guys? Importing terrains, it's really easy. It's drag and drop. And import and export only. Careful when you're using dependencies. Make sure that you're using everything we're using or just not sending the dependencies.
What are the dependencies with?
When you're exporting, like say I want to export this right here, and I say include dependencies, so this only has one. It only has this one texture. But if I send mine, it's going to have a bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff that you don't need. Yeah, see? Like, way more things that, like, you may not have in yours, so that when you go to upload this, you'll be like, okay, it doesn't look anything like what you showed me, unless you have all of these assets.
So the dependencies are like the objects you placed on there,
Yeah.
other than the tree.
Yeah, exactly. So, just simple uncheck that and then import it in and you'll get it. I didn't know you had like blocks attached to this water. I was moving the water to try and
Those blocks are just the placement points for like what will be the objects, right?
yeah.
Like the music shop and the plane and the antenna.
I was just screwing around with that.
That's fine. Whose train is that?
Mine.
Okay, cool.
Mine's on Trello now. Is that okay?
Sweet.
All right, cool.
You can stay. I'm cool, just chilling and watching
All
today.
right, cool. All right.
Different situation for me. I'll be here and I'll be the
Yeah, that's
I'll
fine.
be the bird in your ear, man.
So what else? What else do you guys want to know about texturing terrains, editing them? One thing that I hate about Unity, personally, is you cannot like build cave systems with the terrain. Oh, well, I don't know how. You may be able to. I just don't know how to do it. But it's because you can only go up and down. You can't go in.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, you can't have any overhangs in Unity whatsoever with their terrain.
And I'm sure that has to do with the way the physics works. They just don't want that to be a possibility with this. But
A little workaround though is you know, build a cave in Blender, right? Build a cave purely out of a 3D mesh and then import that 3D mesh to the best of your ability. Like I kind of started to do this on here. Take a look at. I made just this little waterfall mesh, right? And this will eventually become a waterfall. What we could do is we could take this mesh and we could probably open it in Blender. Maybe not. Let me see if I can find it. I don't have the actual object itself, so this might not be what we want. Okay, I guess it is. So we can take this actual object now that it's in Blender and we can say like, let's take all of this back part here and let's just make it a little bit bigger and a little bit longer. And now that's kind of, it's obviously not a cave per se, but it'll definitely give us a little more area to work with inside here, right? So now when we're in, so now if we save this, this might mess things up. But now our cave will just change a little bit, right? Because it updates at runtime as long as it's in the right folder. Now I have to pull that out a little bit, right? Now we have a little bit more of a cave, right? So you can keep extruding it, doing that over and over and over again, and you'll eventually be left with some form of a cave system. But just like Art was saying, there's no way you can like dig into the terrain. I don't know if you guys have ever worked on like Project Spark or anything like that. Like they have like a tool that actually lets you go into the terrain. You can cave out actual holes inside the terrain, which is really cool. But Unity doesn't do anything like that. So anytime we're doing any kind of cave system like that, that's what we'll have to do. One thing you can also do is you can build a little cave system like that. And then right here at this entrance, you can put like a portal. Exactly, you put a portal right, and then you go into this portal. And then when you enter there, that's just going to load a new scene. And this new scene will just be like an underground dungeon or something like that. And that's another way you can work around it. But Unity is not super versatile in that sense that you can just dig out caves wherever you want, unfortunately.
Yeah, but they do work really well. Like, just a skybox alone in a scene can change your perspective enough to make you feel like you're inside versus outside. And that's all that really matters. You just want to make sure that the user feels like you're portraying whatever you want out of your game, you know, like into the scene.
Is the skybox just another object that you place in there?
Skybox.
Skybox is like 5 different images, and those images are layered on top of each other to make it look like you have clouds or sunshafts in the sky or things like that. Unity 5 really switched up their skyboxes, but you can click on.
What is it? Your main camera sometimes has, yeah, yep.
I don't know if you have a skybox option in there or not by default.
Well, no, you probably added a skybox.
I added that skybox, but the thing is that in Unity 4, the Unity 4's project, by default, you can import, you know, basic Unity assets that come with the engine, and some of those default assets were skyboxes, right? With Unity 5, they got rid of that, and I don't know in lieu of what, because I can't find the skyboxes, the basic default Unity skyboxes. But if you wanted to, you can go to Create in your hierarchy.
Yeah, Create.
And then I think you can create a skybox right then and there under Light or UI or something like that. You can create skyboxes from scratch, but I mean, I guess we'll probably will have to do that to get our skybox looking the way we want it to.
Sometimes you do it in like the preferences. No, that's not what I'm thinking.
You can probably.
I can just research this and have it for next time. But they're so useful, skyboxes. So we'll have some sort of workshop where we make one or something, because they're unique because of the way you have to have multiple pictures and then have them all match up. It's similar to the way that you have a train. You don't want a bunch of boxes on the ground. You want it all to be a smooth transition. It makes a big difference. Unity 5 has a really cool light day and night timer that I found working in it.
Cool.
And you can just use directional light, and it will just go off of whatever kind of time you set to it to just rotate that directional light, and it will. Does it just
literally just take the directional light and rotate it around?
Yeah, that's all it is.
That wouldn't be too hard to do.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Well,
rotate
I just selected. You can just select the object at directional light, and it will use it to represent the sun.
Yeah, I mean, you can go into the hierarchy. You can grab our light as is. There should be. I think there's actually 2 directional lights in there. There's one right there, yeah. And now, actually, just disable that one for the moment. Just disable that one for the moment. Sure. And then grab the one underneath down a little bit, right there. And now zoom out so you can see the terrain.
I don't know where the train went.
Just zoom out and just zoom all the way out.
I'll just go.
And now when you have that directional light selected, you can just take it, you can rotate, you can see the shadows will be reflected differently on the terrain depending on how the light is angled. I mean, you can't really see it because you're so far zoomed out. But you can just bring that light all the way down to being on top of your terrain. Yeah. When you have a directional light, it doesn't matter where the directional light is actually positioned in your scene. The directional light is just a representation of a sun beating down from some angle. So even if your directional light is completely underneath your terrain, it'll still look as if it's on top of your terrain. But see, if you rotate it around, you can kind of see the different shadows. So what he's saying, I can totally see how that would make sense, right? You just set that to automatically rotate based off of time, and then we could easily make a day-night cycle. Just maybe when it's pointed up, anytime it's past that 45-degree angle, we can just maybe put in like a moon or something.
Yeah, you might want to have two of them. Can you have two of them?
Yeah, you can have two of them. We can make one like white versus one yellow, and then
or
have that.
White, yeah, bluish white, and one yellow.
Yeah, totally. We can totally do that for something like day-night cycle for sure.
Yeah, and I think, can you use point lights?
I don't think the only one you can't use is an area light. I don't think.
Okay.
That's pro only. Red or light.
Yeah.
But it's just a light, and you actually can change. Do you see how the object's name is light right here, right up above? That's just because it's just a default light class, right? And then through this thread here in the point, you can actually take that drop down and you can switch it between direction light or point light or area light, and that allows you to actually kind of define what kind of light you want. But area light is more. Point light is more just like, think of like a spotlight, right? Sitting up, or not necessarily a spotlight, but think of just like any light, any normal light you would find in the world, right? You're just your normal little 60-watt light bulb. That's kind of what a point light's going to be very similar to, versus something like a directional light, which is more like a representation of the sun.
Yeah. So. And
you can also color these lights to be different colors if you wanted to like make like Christmas lights or something. You could totally do that. That's just in that little color tab. You can click on that and change it from white to any other color, really.
Yeah, you can really see like a directional light's going to give you that sun effect. Well, this is just going to give you that lamp kind of glowing on the ground. So as you transition to day to night, you'll want some of these around so that you can see where you're going. Or you just have, the moon light itself.
Yeah, the moon itself will probably just be a darker shade, or maybe a lower intensity, and maybe a different color.
Yeah, not completely turning off your directional light, but just having it rotated around enough. Yeah. So point lights are really fun to play with. Like, you can get cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him. So when you put down a point light, can you like make it pulse or something? Maybe identify some sort of like.
Yep. You probably do that in. You'd want to do that through a script. You can't just be like Unity, you have it pulse every 5 seconds. It doesn't have any input like that. What you can do is you can do these things in C#. They're called IE numerators. It's just like a method name.
Value of
Exactly. It'll return a time that we're going to wait for. So you can have it wait for like half a second and then turn on, and have it wait for another half a second and turn off, and then just repeat that as many times as you want.
Well, like kind of like dim and then get brighter.
Yeah, definitely. There's a math function in Unity called lerp. The lerp function is cool. It has three intakes. Call it with mathf.lerp, and then you have your starting value, your finishing value, and then the time that you want to have it go over. So you can say like, I want it to be I want to have it start at 100% intensity, and I want it to go to 20% intensity, and I want to do that over half a second, right? So then, when we call it lerp function, it would just essentially do that. It would take your intensity value and it will lower it down to 20 over half a second. Then you could just call that IE numerator, and you can just do the process completely backwards. And you call it lerp from 20 to 100, right?
Give that struggle.
Over the same thing. We have it kind of just faded in and out. Lerp's a super cool function. I really recommend you guys playing around with it a little bit. It's become kind of my favorite function in Unity. You can lerp between two values with just math.lerp, or you can lerp between two vector 3 positions, which is really nice if you're going from point A to point B and you want it to do a exact straight line. For this game I made over the spring break, it was just like a 2D platformer, but the camera starts in the position to where it shows you the entire map, and then it zooms in on your character up close. So I have two different lerps going there. I have one lerp to go for the zoom function, and another lerp to go to the positioning function. So they're both being called simultaneously, and lerp's awesome. You can also do something instead of lerp. You can put in a smooth step, mathf.smooth step, which is the same thing as Lerp. It'll go from a starting value to a finishing value, but it'll speed up the in-between process to make it look like, well, to make it feel more smooth. I mean, that's the really only way to put it. Which is also really nice if you want to have that kind of nice, smooth camera feel. I think that one thing we could do with this game, and we probably will end up doing, is when the game starts, maybe have the camera kind of pan around the whole island, or like all of the islands maybe, around the whole scene itself, and kind of get an overview of what it looks like you're playing on, and then zoom in onto your character, and then you'll start from there. Something like that.
Yeah. And you can set up really cool, they're almost like machinima movie clips where you're just like floating around. Just for your like menu screen, it's just flying around the island. And then that's just happening in the background or something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that could be our whole start screen. It's
Yeah.
it just loops around our island and just floats.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
And you can just set up waypoints that are just empty game objects that your camera is just moving to.
While our super badass theme song's playing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Play the game.
So moving the camera is all done by scripts. So
It is. I mean, you can do it. You can do it manually inside of the scene editor. But when in an actual runtime in the game, it's unless you have it attached to an object that you're moving with the scripts. If you want it to move on its own, it's all going to be done through scripting.
Yeah.
I mean, you could attach inputs directly to the camera itself. But again, that would just be a script, right? I would put a script to where I'm saying if with WASD I could move the camera around with that same movement scheme,
Gotcha.
something like that. But yeah, it'll all be operated through scripting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have any other questions about anything?
Do we want to make a mini map for the UI? Or is it unnecessary?
Well, I think that'd be probably a little too easy. I mean, what do you guys think? Should we have a mini map in this game? I think it'd be too easy for the player.
it's about like exploration.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But so it gives you a.
We could do a mini map that only gets.
How about
Like,
grows,
you
discover
discover
as you
Yeah,
go on?
it's
Yeah.
Fog of War.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Well,
you
you
should
actually
see. You should
add
play
it.
through the game. See, like, is it easy to navigate through?
Mhm.
And if it's so difficult, then yeah, I think you should put in the mini map.
I agree with that. I think that's a good way of going about it. I mean, it's not really in a playable state yet, as you guys are very aware. But there's so much. We're all going to have to be doing so much. I mean, that's a huge part about making games, right? Is you got to play that game, right? I mean, you got to iterate over and over and over and over on it until you get exactly the product that you want.
Is this your fog or the game's fog?
There's no fog.
Yeah, they added. This is Unity 5, right? There's this.
Yeah. Oh, that fog is on. You can hit F and you'll focus in on where that fog is.
Well,
You'll see.
it's over on your other island, right?
Yeah. You can just turn it off.
Well, no, they added fog, which is really cool. It's like fog
Oh,
of
cool,
war.
cool. The fog that I made was just a particle effect. That's a huge particle effect that is a sphere around your character, so it looks like there's fog when in reality it's just a particle.
I can't remember. I need to like take notes while I'm screwing around in Unity. I swear, there's so many things that you do, and you're like, "Oh, that's cool," and then you can't remember how to get back there.
Yep.
But day in the life of
That's like actually probably one of the hardest parts about this club, you know, in all reality is, and I'll be toying around Unity for like hours, right? But then we only have 45 minutes to go and try and cover all the stuff that I went over in last weekend, right? It's pretty impossible. But
What is important is that you can export and that we can import your guys' trains.
Yeah.
Just make a bunch of trains. Everybody make a train.
yeah,
It's
get
really
comfortable
easy.
working in the terrain builder. I highly recommend that. I mean, I think everyone should make their own terrain, whether, I mean, you know, not necessarily one that we're going to have implemented into the game, but just to get comfortable with working in the terrain. That way, if you are working on one of our 5 set in stone terrains and you're like, oh man, I really wish that there was a mountain here, that isn't something that's going to be crazy hard for you guys to comprehend. You know, I mean, it's just click on a tool and lift up that hill a little bit and maybe smooth it out.
Yeah. And you can already see diversity between these 3 trains. You know, and the whole
Yeah, but I
idea is
did
that
make
you
2
get
of
to
those.
use your imagination and just build and build and build. It's like Legos.
Yeah, the train builder is super fun in Unity. I think that it's kind of a cool way, especially when you're sitting there and you're just cramming out script after script, trying to get your mechanics and your game to work, and just kind of take a minute and step back and do something a little more artistic and visually pleasing. Sitting there and just like smoothing out the terrain for like an hour, man. Sometimes.
Yeah. good tools for that. I don't know what else to talk about. Unless you guys have any ideas.
Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna pull up this script real quick, and I'm gonna show you this this lerp function that we did for our camera. You can see it actually in our camera how it is set up currently. So right now the way we have it set up is we have our camera. I'm gonna draw this up real quick. We have our camera, and that is pointing a raycast from the camera to our player. So this is our start, and this is our current finish. And then if at any point in time there's an object that's somewhere between here, then our camera will find this object, and it'll find the next nearest point. It'll find basically here. Let me draw this a little bit. Let's say that there's like a box in the way, right? So if our camera's swinging around and this box is breaking our line of sight, then our camera's going to go in front of this box, and it's going to say this is our new position here, as long as there's nothing behind me. But the second there is something behind me, we're going to lerp back out to our current position. And I'll show you this in practice a little bit. So if we're walking around, and let's say we can just use this train back here, right? So if we turn this way, it's going to zoom the camera in a whole bunch, right? Because it can't go out any farther. So then our lerp function is, once that's no longer there, it's going to lerp back out. See how it kind of smoothly goes out from a point to an end? So what we can do is we can fire up that script right here. This is our camera orbiting script that we made probably a while ago, maybe a month ago or so.
Are you selected in your...
No, I'm going to pull it up on the stream real quick. So here's the actual call to mathup.lerp, right? And so what we're doing is we're creating this raycast hit object, and that's all it's saying is once we put a raycast out there, when the object hits, this is the raycast hit object, right? So we're setting out this line cast, raycast, they're very similar. So we're setting out this line cast. Our starting position is going to be, we start from our player, I guess, and we raycast back to our camera. And then we're going to say if we hit anything, then we're going to judge this new distance based off of our hit positions distance, which is whatever it is that we happen to be hitting. And if we're not hitting anything, and there's nothing behind the camera, then then we're setting our current distance to a lerp amount, so that distance is going to be ever changing. Anytime you use lerp, whether it's for a counting process or for any kind of vector 3 manipulation, it always has to be within your update, fixed update, or late update. It has to be in some form of an update function, because update is going to always be called either once every frame or once every second or at the end of the update. It just depends on which one of these updates you have it in. Fixed update's getting called every second, so anytime you're using anything based off time, you're going to use fixed update, because that'll help you. That'll keep it current throughout everyone else's build. Because if you do something in update that's based off time, that's going to be based off of whoever's using it. That's going to be based off their computer speed, because every update is just every single frame the computer is able to handle. So if you do fixed update, that's setting it at a fixed amount. So across the board, no matter what computer, it'll always be the same. So anytime you have, like, even our movement should probably be in fixed update. I don't know if it is. That's something we can look into. But it should be, right? Anytime you're using anything based off of time in any way, it should always be off that.
So will every script have like a start method and an update method?
They don't have to, but for the most part, yeah. Start method is essentially just what it sounds. Every time that object is being instantiated or created, the start function is going to be called first. It's sort of like kind of like main, sort of, kind of like its constructor, okay. Sort of, kind of. There's also an awake function, to where that's sort of similar to the start function, but it's every time the object becomes active versus it becomes instantiated. So, I mean, like, it's very similar to the start. I mean, a lot of your initialization will be going in the start. The update, like I said, will happen in every time a frame updates, the update function is going to be getting called. Late update gets called after the update function happens. There isn't even an actual update function in this script. This is a pretty small script, but this script just allows us to just rotate around our character, and it always finds the proper distance for that character. What was I going to pull up? Walk around the script. This one I think has an awake. Yeah, see, I have awake here. I could probably put all of this stuff in the start function. Probably be about the same, because our character's never getting disabled and then re-enabled. Versus he's always just getting instantiated. Anytime the level loads, it's just instantiating him right then and there. Yeah, so we have all of our movement out here. All of this should probably go into our fixed update, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Trying to think of what else. Oh, when we edit our animation speeds for when we're sprinting or we're not. I know it doesn't look like we're sprinting right now, but the character walks a little bit faster. This should also be probably in our fixed update function. Last week we were trying to work out that raycast, right? I think that's where we were at. The problem ultimately came down to the fact that this string right here, this ground string that I was referencing, we had capitalized in the script, but in the actual world, surely enough, is not capitalized. So that was kind of our problem there. But now if we run it, we should see this little debug log. Down here in this corner, we'll get a little debug log for once we run into the train. That should pop out, no problem. Yeah, okay. So now it's recognizing we're hitting ground. So at this point, then again, this is to kind of create our slope, how we're going to handle running into slopes with different trains. So once we're hitting that ground, I don't know this. I don't remember this off the top of my head. This is something I'm going to also have to look up. But once we hit this ground, we're going to get that ground's information, and then we're going to find out that ground's angle. And then we're going to say if that ground is at a steeper angle than like 45 degrees, we're just going to add negative movement to our character. So our character will sit there and he'll just keep walking, but he's not going to be going anywhere. So that's something we'll cross pretty soon here. I just don't remember the syntax for it. I know that we'll take this raycast hit. We'll take this objects. I think we're gonna find it. We're gonna access this normal map as long as it's a train. But I don't remember how to do that off the top of my head. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else we really need to go over. Do you guys have any questions about anything? Anything about the scripts or Unity or video games in general? Cool. Then we'll just keep moving on then. So I think the next thing that I'm probably going to be doing is texturing in this train. So we had, let me pull up this Trello map real quick. I switched things around a little bit for this island 4. So it's not quite the same as it was. But here was my kind of grand scheme here, is that I'm going to have a boulder sitting here on top of, oh, sorry about that. Right in this area, there will be a boulder here, and this will be blocking that waterfall from going. And I'll be getting some overflow back here. And this little area will overflow, and it'll kind of stream down the mountain, down here into the water. It'll be a little stream path. And then what we're going to do is our character is going to eventually go and he's going to access this boulder in some way, and he's going to remove it from that area. And that's going to end up filling up this down here. This is going to look like a dried up lake. And so once we remove that boulder, we're going to fill up that dried up lake with water. That dried up lake is going to get filled up, and that's going to slowly overfill, and that's going to fall out into this valley. And this valley is going to be where our plane is, and our plane's going to be on fire, and it's going to be totally taken up. The majority of, you're not going to be able to access this over here. This is going to be our antenna tower. This is going to be our music shop. So you're not going to be able to access either of these locations until you take out the plane that's going to be on fire. So once that fire gets put out, You're gonna be able to go salvage that plane for parts. Then you're gonna be able to go to this antenna, or go over to the that radio tower and salvage that for parts. And then ultimately, you're going to come back around to here. This is going to be your little platform. And this is going to be where you send off your signal. And that's going to be how you get off your island. So that's the 30-second rundown of how to beat this level. Or how it will be to beat this level. So I recommend that if you guys are working on one of the 5 actual scenes, one of the actual 5 terrains that we're making for our starting areas, have some kind of plan like that in your mind when you're making it. Don't just kind of like make stuff and just put it in there. Then you'll end up with a train like this one that I had, where I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make some stuff and just put it in there, and that doesn't work out too well. So have kind of an idea, have sort of a plan, and just sort of work it out that way. And then hopefully Wednesday or maybe next week, whenever we're done with that, then we can have that sort of situated. Like I said, I'll try to get this textured to the best of my ability. I was gonna try and texture it today, but I think the art kind of gave you guys a little bit of tutorial on how to do textures, right? I think hopefully you guys are feeling pretty confident in that. So I'll try to texture this in my time, and we'll get it back.
You're still on mono stream.
Oh, okay, thank you. So for everybody who was watching the stream and missed my whole explanation of the level, well, you're gonna have to play the game. So that's about that. I guess we'll call it here. If you guys don't have any other questions. Nothing at all? Anybody want some direction? Does anyone want something to do for Wednesday? Okay, you guys.
I'm just gonna play around making.
You guys are all so lazy. All right, that's fine. Okay, well then we'll call it for today. Thanks, guys. Thanks again for watching the stream. Thanks for showing up. Thank you to Art for taking over for me while I went and got my coffee. And yeah, so remember to watch the videos, like, subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff, and